Hello and welcome everyone. Today I'm talking to Robbie Singh, also known as the CEO of Omeda Studios, the company behind the multiplayer online battle arena, or Moba, known as Predecessor. Robbie, thank you for taking the time to talk with me today.
Thank you for having me, Jpie. I'm excited to be here.
Robbie, for those who may not know you or the game that you work with, could you give us a brief introduction about yourself, your history with video games, and how it is you found yourself working on Predecessor?
Yeah, sure. I'll start with maybe a brief history about myself. So I started as a content creator for Paragon. I think that was back in like 2016, I want to say, when Epic released a trailer for Paragon, which was their third-person Moba. I started making content for the last 2 years, from 2016 to 2018, and then Epic Games sunset the game. And then from there, it's been like a super insane journey where I met Steven and Andrea, my co-founders, and we decided to take on this kind of enormous challenge of building, what we think could be a really successful third-person MOBA, utilizing the assets that Epic Games released. So it kind of fell into it, maybe by accident, but just really excited and fortunate that we're on such an amazing journey.
Oh, absolutely. And I can't wait to ask you some questions about the journey a little later on, because it's not a normal start to developing a video game, that's for sure. But all in all, yeah. So before we dive into the meat and potatoes, for those who are knowledgeable on Paragon, who is Robbie's favorite hero?
If we're only talking Paragon heroes, then I would probably say Wraith was my favorite. And I don't know if he was my favorite because he was just like kind of broken. But I, prior to Paragon and like outside of MOBAs, I'm a big like Call of Duty player, also like Unreal Tournament. So Wraith kind of fits the gamer that I was, and so I really enjoyed Wraith. If we're talking like exclusively Paragon heroes.
Yeah. Oh man, dropping Unreal Tournament, that's a classic. Oh yeah. Oh, I love that. I grew up on that. Awesome.
Yeah.
So, but you mentioned Paragon. How about now? Is Wraith still your favorite, or maybe Huntress?
Yeah, I mean, people might call me biased, and that's fair. But I think with Huntress, such a cool hero. Yeah, really fun. So I would definitely say that's my new favorite, and just from when we showed it to people, their reactions are like, this is my new favorite champion. So I'm really excited to get it into the hands of the people, hopefully very soon. And hopefully all of you guys have a new favorite hero as well.
Oh, I'm sure many people will. And we are all excited as well to get it in our hands. So
yeah, you guys are going to love it.
Oh, I believe it. And Robbie, I know with the upcoming questions, you've probably been asked many of the same questions over and over again, but I really want to try to go off the beaten path, to drill down into your design philosophy and the history of Predecessor and the lessons that you've endured and learned from along the way.
Sure.
So we'll dip our toes in the pool first. What is the iconic experience Predecessor is trying to achieve?
I think, that's a great question. I think what we're really trying to achieve is we've all seen League of Legends, Dota, these top-down MOBAs, but it's like how do you give that same experience, and not like a one-for-one experience, but how do you translate that experience into a third-person environment? And how do you make the experience feel larger than life? I think that's what a lot of third-person games do really great. Like, there's a lot of good story-driven games where you see massive cinematic moments. How do you create those moments in a third-person MOBA? How do you use verticality in ways that's never been explored before in a MOBA? And I think that's what we're trying to create with Predecessor, along with staying true to the vision of what is a MOBA, right? And so I think that's the kind of experience we're trying to create. And ultimately, we want to create a fun experience for players. Like, our sole goal is to make a fun experience when you play Predecessor, but at the same time, we think we can kind of create like these iconic moments that really define Predecessor.
Yeah, I think that you guys are on track in that to that end, simply because some of the characters are so unique and they have such a distinct play style, and that's kind of like a necessary ingredient in what you're trying to accomplish there.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, earlier on, you were in a position where you didn't have any investors, you didn't have any people believing that this can be a big success. So back then, did you believe Predecessor had product market fit? And if so, how did Predecessor set itself apart from Paragon and some of its competitors?
Sure. Yeah, I guess product market fit is like a really tough one to answer. Like, yes, did we think we had product market fit at the time? It's like, yeah, you might have product market fit, but is it scalable to the size that you need it to be within that market? I think early on we did a really good job of just working with our community, gathering feedback, speaking to content creators, people like yourself, and just gathering feedback from different people. Early on, we didn't have people like yourself covering the game right at the start. So we just try to utilize the community as best we could to figure out, okay, is this something people want? And all the data pointed towards like, yeah, there's definitely something here. It's just about keeping our heads down, working hard, figuring out what the vision is. At the start, it's like very foggy. You don't know which direction you're trying to go, but then you get feedback, you iterate, you gotta take a step forward. And we just keep taking these small incremental steps. And I would think, maybe I could throw that question back at you, given that you played like a week ago in the content creators session. And do you guys think that we've hit product market fit, right? Because for us, product market fit is, have we made a game that people find fun, right? And if we have, then we think we can scale that into a fairly big business. But ultimately, it's people like yourself that are going to be like, hey, this game is fun, or this game isn't fun. And that's going to tell us, hey, do we have product market fit or not? So I'd maybe throw that question back to you.
Oh yeah, I definitely think the potential is there to seize a lot of the market. Now, in my eyes, with your goal that you just pointed out, that you wanted to make it fun. Oh yeah, the game is absolutely fun. And I would actually, and I may be biased here, but I would go as far as to say I feel like you guys might be on the verge of capturing lightning in a bottle. And I don't think it's going to be as big as something like Fortnite or how League of Legends and Dota originally blew up. Because these it was there were unique circumstances during that time. There was never the international. At one point that didn't exist, and so absolutely. But in the world we are in now, I think that the people playing MOBAs are hungry for something new, and I think Predecessor is that.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, we completely agree with you. Like, I think it's I think the feedback we've gotten from people like yourself and other content creators, people from the community as well that have played the game, it's all been super positive. So I think we're definitely heading in the right direction. It's just up to us to keep delivering on that. It's a game that operates as a live service, so we have to keep up with delivering great content. And I think we've set ourselves we've built ourselves a really great foundation that we can just keep building upon.
Yeah, and you didn't accomplish building that foundation without some growing pains, because regarding the community and you guys taking feedback from the community, a lot of the early play tests yielded a lot of negative feedback. How has this feedback helped you to reorient Predecessor towards a better direction and a better future?
Yeah, I mean, it's always, I think negative feedback is is better than positive feedback. In one sense, I mean, obviously, if everyone tells you your game sucks and then there's not much positives, then it can be disheartening. But I mean, a lot of it was like, hey, there's like, we see so much potential, but here are the negatives, right? And so we're like, okay, there's definitely something here, but we need to listen to people, we need to listen to their feedback. And the negative responses are so great because, one is, you can look at it in a way as, people are writing negative things about my game, you can let it get you down. But I looked at it and the team looked at it and like, wow, someone took 30 minutes, 40 minutes out of their day to write something constructive that may not be positive. It very well may be completely negative, but they took the time out of their day. So we know that this person cares. And so we gathered a lot of negative feedback and we needed it, right? Like our game back then was bad. Like it definitely didn't live up to what we wanted. But we were very early on showcasing our game like years ahead compared to, where other studios would generally showcase their game. And so we definitely needed people to be honest with us and not just say, hey, your game is great and we love it. We needed that honest feedback from people, good or bad, to really help us get to where we are today. And I think today we've gotten to a point where the game feels amazing to play, people are enjoying it, and it's really a credit to those people who took the time to really like, hey, the game isn't where it should be and you guys can do a lot better. And thanks to those people, that's why the game is the way it is today.
Yeah, I can see that. And an interesting quote that you mentioned in a 2020 interview was that you mentioned that getting the game to 90% is the easy part, but getting that last 10% is the hard part. And you said this years ago. So how do you feel about it today?
It's still the hard part, my friend. It's still like, I feel like, it's a tricky balance because I feel like with us, everything we try to put out is super polished. Like it goes through so many rounds of critiquing. We really want to put like our best foot forward and also deliver to the players what we think they deserve, which is a really polished, fun and refined experience. But that 10% just takes up so much time. So at some point you have to be like, hey, this is good enough and we think players are going to love it and it's going to be fun. And that 10%, you may end up chasing that 10% for the entire lifetime of your game. It's so hard to reach that 10%. So that is definitely still true. But I think as we've matured as a studio, we've learned to be like, okay, this is really fun. Players are also telling us it's fun. We know it's 90%, but everyone seems to love it. And most people don't even notice the 10% that's missing. So is it really worth the extra months that we'd have to put in to get it to 100%? And so that's the kind of battles that we have. And it's also just part of like growing as a studio as well.
Would you describe Predecessor as easy to learn and difficult to master?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I mean, I'm obviously biased because I already had pre-existing knowledge going into the game, but I would say, yeah, it's fairly easy to learn. And there's significant depth that I think the game is difficult to master. And there's a lot that people may not originally see on the surface, but as you start to spend more hours in Predecessor, it is fairly difficult to master, especially with certain champions.
I could definitely see that. Is there anybody in mind that comes to mind when that you would describe as a master of Predecessor currently?
In terms of people, or
like just skill level, I guess, just general skill level.
I don't know. There's obviously on our development team, we have some insane players. Like we have Cameron, who joined us from Epic. We have Felix, who won like the World Championship with Paragon. We have Declan. We have Aaron. There's some really great people who are like insanely good at the game. Like they're masters of the game. But I think we're all really interested to see who are the people that from the public end up mastering the game, because I'm sure these people are going to show us things about our game that we never even imagined.
Oh yeah, I can't wait till you guys encounter maybe something along the lines of like a broken build where maybe one item and the timing of it, it's just something that you need to examine. Like that's going to be a cool problem that you guys encounter in time.
Yeah,
Or maybe,
100%.
yeah. Now, a big focus of MOBAs, especially the matches, are the length of the matches and kind of what you want to fill those matches with. The kinds of gameplay, the experiences, the objectives. How would you break down the game time structure of Predecessor?
Yeah, I think we've done a good job in creating a really fun experience in a window that we're comfortable with. We think the game is fairly structured in the sense that there's a laning phase, there's like this middle phase, and then there's like this end game phase. And typically we're seeing games. I mean, the stress test, we saw games. I think the average time. Don't quote me on this because I'm going from memory, but I think it was about 27 minutes, which we think is a really healthy time. I think the thing that we wanna stress though is that we're not obsessed with making it capturing a game has to end in 25 minutes. We think it's super healthy if you're in a game and the game's going back and forth and the teams are super even and it's so close for that game to maybe go on longer than 30-40 minutes. I was watching some videos of some content creators that played and their game was like 44 minutes and they loved that experience because it was back and forth. I think the thing that we're really trying to avoid with match times is we don't want you to be playing for like 40-50 minutes in a game that you felt was lost 20 minutes ago, right? Like if by 20 minutes you felt the game was lost, then we want to give the team that's far ahead the tools to win that game, or the team that's losing enough opportunities to make a comeback. And we feel like we've got a good balance. What we're really trying to avoid is those games that draw on forever and ever. Where it's just you're just like, get me out of here, right?
Yeah.
But of course, we want to see really tight games, and it's fine if those games go on longer. But yeah, we're really happy with like the structure of the match length and where the games are ending at the moment, and we think we've done a really great job in like creating these phases. The laning phase, the middle phase, and the late game phase. And so yeah, we'll obviously monitor the data for early access, but so far it's all been extremely positive.
I'm inclined to agree because, as you are aware, and for those of you who may not be, in Paragon there was a period of time where the time of games ended up being too long, and a lot of people were complaining, and some went on even beyond an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and I have to say, from my time with Predecessor, the game length has been great. It's been. When it's been a complete stomp, it's still a decent time. And even say I've had games where my team is behind 4 or 5 Fangtooths and we're just holding on by a thread, and somehow we get a good team fight, we get all 5 of them and then run it down the core. And so that kind of comeback potential, that's crucial in a MOBA, and it's something that I feel like is not only alive in Predecessor, but it's in a really good place too.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
Yeah. So, do you feel Predecessor? It has the Z-axis. It has some very unique abilities that make use of that. Do you feel it creates value there where other MOBAs do not, or do you even feel like there's other ways that Predecessor creates more values that other MOBAs do not?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. I don't know if value is the word I would use, but I think it creates a different experience, because I definitely think there's valuable things in other games for sure. But I think the difference in experience compared to like a League or a Dota or even a Smite is very different. I feel like with Predecessor, we really try to capture like this action gameplay, but we didn't want to push it too far in the action. Like, this is very much a MOBA. So people who are familiar with MOBA should understand that, there's a lane, there's a minions, there's a laning phase, there's towers and all these other MOBA elements. But we really try to capture like you're in the heat of the moment. The game is you like the action man of the story, and I think that's what I think that's the experience that maybe differs from other games. With the way the camera is, with the way we try to immerse the player into the game, I think that's very different to other MOBAs. And then also a lot of the like shooter action elements. That's really where we think Predecessor can shine, and we think we've found like a really good balance. I still think there's a lot more we can do, but I think today we've done a really good job of like, okay, laying the foundations. I still think there's tons of work to be done and areas that we can improve and like really showcase what a true third-person MOBA can be. And we have like so many great ideas. But today I think we've done a really good job of kind of showing a little bit of how we differentiate from other games, and also what people can expect coming into Predecessor in terms of that experience.
And one thing that they most certainly have to experience, and I think we're all in agreement here, is Gravity Greaves.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's that was like, I can't even remember how we came up with that item idea. I think I can't remember if it was me or someone else, and I don't want to take credit if it was someone else. But yeah, someone was like, "What if we just made boots that like let you jump really high?" And we're like, "All right, let's just try it." And we're like, "All right, this is cool, this is fun." And I don't think, it may not be an item that's ever meta, but it's like, hey, you could do some really cool plays with it, and you could win games. This item can help you win games. It might not be like a competitive pick all the time, but I think it's fine to have like really fun items that exist that maybe aren't the best, but hey, you could pick this item up. You're not like intentionally sabotaging your team, and you can go ahead and win games with an item like this. I think that's really exciting, and we have ideas for so many more items like that.
Well, that's phenomenal news, because I think even as quirky and out there as the item is, I mean, you can dodge Gideon's abilities and other skill shots and stuff, so it also changes the gameplay in such an interesting way. My hands down my favorite item. I try to shoehorn it every opportunity I have.
Go for it, man. Go for it.
And as you know, longevity of MOBAs are like any other multiplayer game, in that they are completely dependent on a thriving player base. And with the genre, with competitors ranging from thousands of players, like a game like Smite, to millions like Dota and League, for Predecessor, what is the target of number, the number of average players that you would consider a success?
Yeah, I think if you're asking me personally, what I think, the goal is to be as big as League of Legends one day, right? Like, I think you should always shoot for the stars and then see where you land up. So that's definitely the goal, and I'm fine with like putting that out there into the universe. But we definitely don't need to be like a League of Legends size to make this a sustainable business where we can continue making content. I think you can look at a lot of other games that are very like significantly smaller and still pumping out great content, have a really strong fan base. So not every game needs to be a League of Legends size game to succeed, but I don't see any reason why Predecessor can't be that game. It'll of course be a very long journey, but I think you have to set high standards for yourself and have a really high goal. So that's definitely my personal target. In terms of what the studio might consider as a success, I don't know. I'm hoping that everyone in the studio agrees with my goal, because I think that's where we should be shooting for. I don't know if there's a specific number in mind, but hopefully that gives you some insight as to at least how I think about it.
I see. So would you say, do you feel that Predecessor at early access is ready for 1 million players?
I don't think so, no. I would say, free-to-play players, which is where we think we're going to have the most growth, have expectations based on other games, and rightly so, right? Like they come into a game and they're expecting a tutorial, onboarding, a variety of other systems to exist, and we just haven't focused on those, to be honest. Like, our focus is, can we make a fun game? We've seen a lot of great games that have like great systems, great UI, and you open the game and it's such a phenomenal experience. But when you get into the meat of the game, there's nothing really there that has you wanting to come back for more. And I think that's a lesson that we've learned, just looking at other games across the industry. It's like, yeah, like everything is so polished and fancy, and the UI is nice, and the tutorial is great. But then I just stop playing the game after an hour. It's like those systems don't bring players back to games, right? Like if you have a fun game, they'll definitely do a great job of keeping players there and bringing them back in terms of retention. Have different, mechanics like ranked mode or battle pass. Those will definitely help retain players. But if your game's not fun, that person isn't coming back anyways. And so our focus has been, how do we make the game fun? And if we can do that, then building those other systems is fairly easy. Everyone knows how to build those systems. But building a fun game, it's like asking someone how to write a hit record. Everyone knows how to record a song, but not everyone knows how to make a hit record.
Very true. And it's a fine line to walk, especially when you're considering new players that are coming to the game for the first time and pro level players that know the game like the back of their hand. How do you manage that dance? Complexity versus depth. How do you balance that?
Yeah, I think it's one that we definitely talk about a lot internally. I think I don't think complexity is a thing you want in any game. Like complexity is just making things unnecessarily hard. I think what you want is depth. Like you want there to be depth in a MOBA. I wouldn't say League is complex. I would say it has a lot of depth. And so that's the same thing we ask ourselves. When we're designing stuff like new items, new heroes, are we adding complexity or are we adding depth? And what you often find is you're adding something that's adding complexity, but it's not even adding depth. And so we definitely want to add depth to our game. We want there to be a way for players to express themselves through, whether through skill expression, through items, through heroes. We definitely want that, and we think that comes from depth. We don't think that comes from complexity. And so that's something we talk about a lot internally, and we think we've done a pretty good job of adding depth to the game thus far. And we'll listen to the community feedback and definitely continue to iterate on that.
Well, to go alongside that, how can the players do their part to provide that feedback and give Omeda Studios and Predecessor support in that way?
Yeah, I mean, just feel free to create Reddit threads. I'm always checking Reddit on I think the subreddit's Predecessor Game. You can post in the Discord. You can hit me up on Twitter. My Twitter's at RGSACE. We're always looking at feedback on all our social media channels. So feel free to voice your opinion, and you could also make a video. Any form of feedback is helpful, positive or negative.
With that said, what's your long-term vision for the game, the company, and yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. The long-term vision for the game, I think, is like we want to take this as far as we can with the community. If as long as they're having fun with the game, we'll continue working on it and creating something really special for them. Our goal, we definitely want this to become an esports at some point. We think there's a lot of potential there. The same with, as the game grows, the company will grow and will grow to support the game. This is really, our sole focus as a studio. Personally, my personal goal is just to, help the company in any way I can, build a really great game and, serve the community as best as I can. That's really just kind of my personal goal. And obviously make the game as big as possible, because the bigger the game, the more resources we'll have to create these really cool ideas that we have. And so I think kind of all three, the game, the company, and myself, we're all really aligned. We kind of all have the same goal, and I think I can speak for everyone else at the company as well, which just makes it super easy to build this game, because everyone is pushing forward in the same direction.
And that's a key for a successful team. And just a side note, I think it's incredibly impressive that your team and Omeda is basically fully remote, and you guys have been able to create this product. As someone who works in software development, that is a huge feat. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Now, would you say that you achieved the goal of developing a better Paragon?
To be honest, I don't know if my personal goal was ever to build a better Paragon. I loved Paragon for what it was. I thought it was a great game. I have a huge amount of respect for people like Steve Superville and all the guys that worked on Paragon. Like, I think it was really great for what it was. I just don't think our goal was ever to build a better Paragon. I think our goal was to build a really great third-person MOBA that could stand the test of time, really. And so it was never really like, can we do better than Paragon? It was like, can we create a genre-defining game, which is maybe even a taller order than being better than Paragon? But that was really the goal. And I think if I had to answer, have we created a genre-defining game? I don't think we have yet, but I think we've laid the foundations to potentially say, if we look back on this in 5 years, it's like, hey, this game now defines the MOBA genre. And I think it's a tall ask, and it's a really hard one where we might only get 90% of the way, and we might never redefine a genre. But I think it's worth setting ourselves that target and seeing, can we really make a third-person MOBA and one that people just love, and it's like, hey, I never thought a MOBA could exist like this. I think that's more what we're trying to achieve. I don't think we've achieved it yet, but I think we definitely set the foundations to go and achieve something like that, or to potentially go and achieve something like that.
I see. My own personal feeling, and I'm a Paragon lover. I first, that's like the first third-person MOBA I really got into, and I think I speak for a lot of people when I say that we all had hopes and visions of what Paragon could become, and that didn't work out for Paragon, but with Predecessor coming, we are elated. I mean, it is the best time ever to be a Paragon fan, and with this early access release, so many of us are going to just spend so much time playing, creating content, and just enjoying every moment of it. What would you... Robbie, what would you like to tell the players joining early access playing Predecessor for the very first time?
I would just tell them, look, jump into the game, enjoy it for what it is. Like, it's an early access game. I would say, without sounding too biased, I think our gameplay is ahead of like where most early access games are. And I think the gameplay itself is fairly polished. I'll let the people be the judge of that, but I think it's miles ahead of where most early access games typically land. But we know we're missing a lot of things that we need to build out, and that's why we have the early access kind of tag. But I would say enjoy the game for what it is, have fun, don't take it too seriously. Use this time as like, hey, it's early access. There's no rank, but I could use this time to get really good, because rank mode is definitely coming. And when it comes, you'll want to be ready. So use this time to maybe get good at the game, try out wacky builds. There's no pressure. But once rank mode comes, then you'll be in a perfect position. So I would say, use early access as like this, hey, there's like pre-season window. It was like, hey, I get to learn the game, and when rank comes around, I'm going to be ready. I would say that's probably what I would tell people. And also just have fun, right? Like, it is, I think, a really fun experience. And so, yeah, games are made to bring joy and happiness and fun to people. So when you play Predecessor, hopefully you have fun as well.
I believe that they will. I mean, it's there's very few games where you can hop in with a few friends or even solo and just hurl around abilities and ultimates, and it's just such a gratifying, fun experience overall. And even if they don't play ranked or competitive, there's still a lot for you guys. It's just so much fun. All the characters, items, everything. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, also I will say that there's, even though there's no rank, there's skill-based matchmaking, and that the matchmaking system that is in the normal mode is a variant of what powers our ranked mode. So you will still be getting like quality games. You won't be. It's not just like a free for all, right? It's basically basically the same thing that powers our rank system is the algorithm that's powering the early access matchmaking, and we'll obviously be tweaking it based on feedback from players. But you'll still be going against people of equal skill and should have extremely good quality games. And so yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Just jump in and then let us know what you think. Send us those Reddit threads, tweet us on Twitter, post in our Discord, and let us know what you think because we're always listening.
Yeah, guys, let's start the conversation on Reddit, on the Steam forums, everywhere we can discuss the game and learn about it. And to everyone, early access has begun. This is the best time to jump in, have fun. There's a few packs available, and you can just dip your toes in the water with the lowest pack. It's still a great value. You get a ton of stuff there. I'm personally going to go with the Founders. Those skins now they're exclusive, and yeah, so guys, now's the time. Get those hot skins and get in on the action. You won't regret it, I promise you. I'm super excited, and all of us who've been following this project are super excited. Robbie, thank you so much for coming on, joining me for the interview, talking to the new players and old alike, Paragoners and Predecessors. Thank you. Would you like to say any closing remarks? Anything to the community?
Yeah, just want to say firstly, thank you to you for having me. It's been great speaking to you. Really love the content. Enjoy watching your videos. Also want to say massive thank you to the community. Without you guys, none of this would have been possible. Really from the start, really. So it's been an insanely wild journey. And I'm really glad that we have such a supportive and passionate community, people that love our game like yourself, that create content. That's, really, really a blessing for us. So yeah, really appreciate it. Hope you guys are enjoying early access. And yeah, thank you so much for having me.
It's been a real pleasure. And please guys, follow Robbie on all his socials, Omeda Studios and Predecessor on all their socials, and be sure to follow them and just help support them however you can. Robbie, thanks again. It's been a pleasure. I wish you the best of luck throughout early access into your free-to-play release, and I hope that you achieve what you set out to do. I believe in your vision for the game, and I do think that Predecessor will be one of the biggest games on the planet in due time.
Thank you. I hope you're right, because I definitely believe it as well.
Robbie, thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your day and take care.
Thanks a lot, Jpie. Thanks for having me.